Mom, I wanted to take some time and just talk to you about some of the things that have gone on in your life. We know that you were born Amish, which is pretty cool because there aren't too many people that are born Amish, and you are the first generation out of many generations, right?
Yes.
So as far back as you know or have seen in your
back
genealogy,
to the 1700s.
yes, you were Amish, and we've been talking about your story, and I wanted to hear from you how the story came about. So we've been writing it down, but how did it come about that we started to write it down? You'd met someone at Oak Ridge and got to know him.
Oh, that was Bill. And I started telling him different stories about my life and what I'd done and where my parents come from and how I got started at Oak Ridge and all that different stuff. And he told me, he said, there's no way that one person done all that. And then somebody else came in and repeated some of the stories, and he said, you really did it. And I said, yeah, I did. And that's where I am right now. And that's what brought me to where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of cool. And then I told you that, and then you said, well, we need to do more. We need to record some of that and make a story out of it, which it is. And that's what we're doing here today.
How has the journey been for you as we've sat together and talked over the course of the last couple of years? Has it been good? Has it been hard?
Sometimes it's hard, but most of the time it's a good reflection of what I've done over the years and how fortunate I've been to have had the life that I have.
Mm-hmm. Even with the hard times. And you and I think, have gotten actually closer through it.
Oh, yeah. And we did have some really hard times and some really rough periods that I didn't do exactly like I should have, and it's made it hard stumbling through life and trying to get it right. But I've always wanted to do what was right and raise my children right. But I make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, and you know what, I'm even finding that I've tried to do it right, but you know what we've realized? Ain't nobody doing it right.
That's
Am I right?
That's exactly right.
So we're all learning, you know.
That's right.
As
It's
we
a
go.
learning experience as you go, because nobody is born knowing how to be a parent, a good parent, or a good wife, or a good mother. It's something that you learn as you go.
I wanted to go kind of to think back on your earliest memory with your grandmom and your grandpa Yoder. They were Emmanuel and Lizzie Yoder, and they lived in Danville, Ohio?
No. They lived in Mount Eaton, Ohio.
Mount Eaton, okay.
Right in the middle of the Amish community.
Okay.
And they were staunch Amish and very legalistically oriented and raised their 8 children the same way, which my mother was the third one from the top, and there was 8 of them. So, but Mom and Dad left the Amish when I was 8 or 9 years old, and we moved to Florida, and then we started going to the Mennonite church. And but a lot of that Amish heritage is still in my house today, even though I'm not Amish and was never belonged to the Amish church, even though I went to the Amish church till I was in school and whatever. But I never went to an Amish school. I always went to public school. Yeah.
You said there was a phrase that your grandpa said to your mom and dad, and
when we went to Florida, and then when we came back, we went to Grandpa's, and we hadn't seen them in 5 years. And then my grandpa said that they would have been glad to see us if we could have come back like we were raised, like Mom and Dad were raised. But he said it in German, and it hurt my mother's feelings so bad that she cried. And and we didn't stay long because we didn't feel like we were accepted, and which Mom and Dad should have known that because they were such staunch Amish, and then we came back as Mennonites, which to them was the same as if you didn't belong to anything.
Mm-hmm. Even though you had coverings and cape dresses, and
yes,
still probably spoke a lot of German in your house.
That's all we did. When I started school, I couldn't speak English. All I could speak was Pennsylvania Dutch.
How did the teacher handle
and
that?
then the teacher wrote a note home and told Mom and Dad we had to speak English at home so that I could understand what they were saying. Well, then my cousin Verna come to that school and was in my class, and we sat in the same desk because she couldn't understand English. And so that was my first grade. When we went to the Amish church, and my dad was not a good Amishman, but occasionally we would go to the Amish church, and we had a small buggy, and there was all of us kids, so there wasn't no place for us to sit. So Mom and Dad sat in the front on the seat, and then all of us kids stood behind the seat of the buggy, and we had on what was us girls had on what was called a mundley. It had no arms in it, and it was like a cape that you put on and buttoned in the front, and then your arms were down to the side. But it was cold, and in the wintertime your feet almost froze riding in that contraption. And
going down the hill. Remember when you said when you came to the hill, what would they do going into Fredericksburg?
Oh, sometimes we had to get out and walk so the horse could go up the hill. But then when we got on top of the hill, we jumped in because it was straight down. And in Fredericksburg, Ohio, there's 4 roads going in. It's a crossroad. And so all 4 roads start on top of the hill, and it goes straight down the hill to the bottom in town. Mm-hmm. And that was quite a thing for a horse to pull a buggy up the hill and then have to hold back to go down the hill. So Fredericksburg is still kind of scary if you're not used to it.
Mom, you had told us that you remembered Aunt Katie and Aunt Fanny coming for a visit, so let's tell that story.
Yeah, every so often they would come. And one forenoon, somebody knocked on the door, and there was Aunt Katie and Aunt Fanny. And I was standing on a chair washing dishes. I had 2 dish pans on the table, and I was standing on a chair washing dishes. I must have been about 6 years old. Anyway, I was wet all down the front. I probably had water all over the floor. But my aunt came in, and she seen me, and she walked over to me, and she says, "Kein Verstand." And my mom come out and said, "Was ist letzt?" So there's my Fanny said, "It's no sense." And then Mom come out, and of course she was it kind of hurt her feelings. But the truth of it was, here I was 6 years old with 2 dish pans on the table trying to wash the dishes, and Mom was sitting in the living room. So anyway, that's the way I did from the time that I was that little until I left home.
How did they respond? Did they just leave it like that?
No, they came in and took my wet dress off and dried me off and put on a clean dress, and then they got in the kitchen and they finished washing the dishes. Mm-hmm. Of course I helped, but after I was dry, and they cleaned up the floor. So my Aunt Fanny and Aunt Katie told that story from the time I was 6 years old until after they were old women. We'd sit on the porch and they'd tell that story.
One of the things the Amish do is just tell stories, don't they?
They're storytellers.
They don't have TV.
They don't have a radio, don't have television. And that's the way they keep their family history going, is by and the other telling each other. They can sit all afternoon in a circle and tell stories all afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, and if you pay attention, you can learn a lot.
Yeah. I want to go back to really also the fact that you were 6 years old washing dishes, but by the age of 9, you had your first job. Amish children work from the time they're like 5 or 6, and you actually had a paying job at age 9. Who was that with? And
that
tell
was
us.
Catherine Geisinger, and she had a little girl with Down syndrome, and she was a year older than I was. And Catherine cleaned houses on Siesta Key in Florida, and so that whole summer, I took care of Anna while Catherine worked.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd have to cook her lunch, and then I would do laundry and hang up the laundry on, and then I'd have to take it down and fold it and put it away. And
was Anna pretty high functioning?
She was pretty good. You could teach her a lot of stuff, but you could just like if we hung up clothes, she would hand me the clothes. She could never get it together to work the clothespins, but she could get them out of the basket and hand them to me. And so her and I had that whole summer together. And my first paycheck was $3, and my mother got it.
Yeah.
My mom.
Tell us about that.
Mom always came and collected my pay every Friday evening when they picked me up to take me home. Then I was home on Saturday and Sunday until after church Sunday night. Then I would go back to Catherine's and be there until the next Friday night. And so that wasn't too bad because I got room and board and plus $3 a week. And that would have been back in 1949 or 50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that would be the same as how much today? A lot. Yeah. A lot more today to do the same thing. Yeah. So that was a learning experience, and that was my first job.
I know that we've been talking about your job, but I know you were a kid too. And down in Florida, you had your brothers, and I think you were a pretty good tomboy, don't you think?
Oh yeah, we put 3 bicycles together and made one, and then we stayed out on the bicycles all day long. And we had dirt roads, so it was sandy, but we rode those bicycles all day long. And Mom come out one night and said, "Come in and set the table for supper." And I was on the bicycle, and I went all the way down the road to the stop sign, which was quite a ways, and then I made a right, went to the next stop sign, and then when I came back, she was outside, and I said, "Oh man, I'm in trouble." So I turned around and went back up and came back down, did it the second time. I thought if I'm going to be in trouble, I'm going to make it worthwhile, so I made another trip. Then when I come back, she seen I didn't care, so she didn't do anything. She didn't get in there and set the table. So I did.
You got away with it.
I got away with it.
So
if I'd have stopped the first time, I'd have been in trouble.
Tell us about some of the kids in that little, it's called the Palmetto that you used to play in. Tell us a little bit about it.
We lived next to a field that was full of palmettos, and there was a big pond down below it, and there were cottonmouth moccasins in there, and we used to play in those palmettos. And then one day we were out there running around, and the St. Louis kids and all of us kids, and there was a stump there, and I jumped up on the stump, and we were hollering back and forth and whatever. I looked down, and there was a big old snake going past the stump, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, let me out of here." Anyway, then from then on, we didn't play in there like we did before, because that was really scary, and they were everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway,
you were really played with the boys. Did you play football? I heard that
we played football. They rolled me in the mud puddles. I was the only girl, and I was usually the captain of one side, and so I was bossy. And so the boys didn't like that. And Frankie Kinsvogel and the St. Louis boys, and then my brothers, which I had 4. And I was the only girl, but they used to roll me in the mud puddles. We used to have a time. We used to have to take the water hose and wash ourselves off before we could even go in the house. We were so muddy and dirty. But that was the best time of our life. And all kids should be allowed to do that.
You tell a story about Frankie and what he did.
Oh, Frankie's dad bought him a BB gun. And he was shooting everything. So I took the BB gun away from him. Well, he got it back, and he shot me in the middle of the back.
Man, did that hurt?
And it set me on fire. But it also made me mad. So I got the gun away from him, and I chased him. And I told him, I'm going to shoot you. You shot me, I'm going to shoot you. He climbed up the tree. And I took the gun, and I sat down beside the tree, and I said, stay up there. And he said, let me down. I said, nope. You're going to stay up there till your daddy gets home. And this was, I don't know, a couple hours before his dad come home. But I sat under the tree with the BB gun, and there I stayed. And he kept begging me, let me down, let me know, getting down. So then his dad came home. He said, Betty, what in the world are you doing? What's Frankie doing up the tree? I said, he shot me. He said, I did not. I said, oh, yes, you did. And I pulled up my shirt and showed him my back. I said, there's where he shot me. And I said, I wasn't going to let him down. I told him if he come down, I was going to shoot him. And he said, well, give me the gun. So I handed it to his dad. He said, get down, Frankie. We're going to the house. I never seen the BB gun again after that. And
Dad decided he couldn't handle the BB gun, huh?
He took the BB gun away from him. It took a long time for that spot to go away. Mm-hmm. He shot me close enough to where it could have killed me, according to where it would have hit.
Right.
And but we made up. Us kids made up, and we played and had a good time. Yeah, we just didn't have a BB gun after that.
Say that again?
I said I milked my first cow when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
A big old Jersey cow.
Oh,
She's beautiful.
That's amazing.
Yeah. You could do anything to her. She didn't care.
You love a Jersey cow to this day.
Yeah, I do. I do. We went to Ohio, and there was a bunch of Jersey cows out by the fence. I had to stop.
It was sweet.
Yeah.